Hello and welcome to Zim Car Carriers. Also, thanks for checking out the second part of this video. Below, the process of hitch rack installation is explained in a couple of steps. Step 1. Fit the bike rack tube into the hitch receiver designed for that purpose. Be certain that it is the appropriate size. To ensure there is no loose end, you could use an adapter alongside. This part is very essential to the overall ability of the rack to secure your bike. Usually, these products come with tools such as the hitch bolt. This helps keep the hitch tube of the rack within the car's hitch receiver without any loose end. The anti-tilt tool and wrench should also be used to ensure this happens. This is because the weight of the bike or bikes in motion will cause carrier wobble. To reduce this possibility to the bare minimum, you should engage the use of these tools effectively. Step 2. Hitch racks have trays. By and large, these trays determine the size of the length and breadth of the rack. You should adjust this tray to suit the size of your bike, as well as your preference. However, make sure that the trays are not adjusted beyond the breadth of your car. This could make driving a nightmare for you and other vehicle owners. Step 3. Also, a lot of hitch racks can hold more than one bike. Some can carry as many as 5 bikes, although this means the rack will have to weigh lots of pounds. To carry out this feature, the designated part that holds each bike is attached to the main part of the rack. The same procedure that attached the rack to the car's hitch receiver will be repeated. The supporting arms that will hold other bikes should be secured to the main part of the rack. This is with the aid of the hitch bolts, as well as the anti-tilt tool, as earlier carried out on the main rack. Step 4. The rack comes with a lot of fasteners and tie-downs. These items are used to hold down and secure strategic parts of the rack. For instance, the sole vertical bar is kept standing with the aid of a fastener or tie-down. To close the vertical bar, probably to assess the car's trunk, you simply need to remove this item. In the same vein, there are various points all around the rack that should be secured with fasteners and tied down. You should check for these points and attach the appropriate item to hold or secure them. Next, you can carry out the purpose of the hitch rack. You can load your bike or bikes onto the rack. There are straps designed to hold parts of the bike firmly. For instance, the wheels of the bike should be properly secured with the straps. These straps may be tightened using plastic clips, tie-downs made with rubber, or a few other alternatives. For the last time, you should check every attachment and that it is done properly. This way you are certain every part of the rack can serve its purpose. Another safety precaution would be to drive a few miles and see the entire thing unfold. This will be to ensure there are no loose ends of any kind awaiting you. Lastly, the rack is a tool for transporting the bike. In light of that, do not fail to offload the bike after use. Keeping the bike on the rack unnecessarily can reduce the lifespan of the hitch rack. You should understand that all of the weight is rested upon the hitch tube and car's receiver. Against this backdrop, hitch racks should not be treated as bike ports, but as what they are, bike racks. You should also fold the rack after use. This will enable you to use your car trunk with less interruption. Next, let's talk about installing a trunk rack on your car. Before now, we have spent a large part explaining the installation of the hitch rack on cars. In the same vein, let us spill out the procedure for installing a trunk rack. Once again, we recommend this option solely for seldom bikers. If you frequently transport your bike, you may want to try out another rack option. Haven said that, "How do you install a trunk rack to a car?" This is practically the easiest type of rack to install. You do not need lots of tools for this procedure. The process is told in a couple of steps, but first, let's share some little advice on the purchase. You should be cautious about the choice of a rack. Go for a rack that would not expose your bike to tree branches that are hanging low. While the truck rack cannot be as high as the roof rack, some can lift the bike to a vulnerable position. To avoid this, purchase a low-hanging trunk rack. So, let's get back to how to install a trunk rack on a car. 1. Secure with the straps. The strap is the major item used by the truck rack. After getting hold of these straps, see where they fit into the truck. Some will fit into the bottom, top, and sides. Fix all straps to fit into their respective positions. The straps should be tightened afterward. This is done by either readjustment of the slide or fastening the buckle. Most racks have a locking mechanism that is more secure compared to compact racks. The compact rack does not have a special locking mechanism. This should be well considered while in use. For instance, we suggest that you do not mount more than one bike on this rack. Also, be sure to make use of the straps well enough. 2. Hang the bike on the rods. After this is done, the rack is ready to use. By now, you should have the 2 rods protruding over the trunk. These rods will be used to hold the bike while the straps secure the entire bike. The rods have hooks that will hold and lock the top horizontal frame of the bike. You should understand that the functionality of the trunk is largely dependent on you. Do not allow for loose ends when using the straps. Make sure you tighten every part the straps allow you secure. As shared during the hitch rack segment, you should test drive after installation. Drive through a less busy road for a couple of miles. After that, check the state of the rack and bike. If there is any loose end, you will be able to make the proper changes immediately. If there isn't any problem, you can commit the rack and your bike to more busy roads. 3. Installing a roof rack on your car. The structure of a car's roof is essential for mounting a roof rack. There is that part of roof rack frames known as a mount. Other major parts of the roof rack include the tower, crossbar, and accessories. The mount is what connects other parts of the roof rack to the car's roof. The type of car roof structure should determine the rack mount that will be used. In our bid to understand this, let's go over the types of car roof structures. Bare or naked rooftop. This implies that there is no factory installation on the roof. Unlike a couple of other structures with rails, crossbars, tracks, this car's rooftop is blank. This means that the rack mount used for this structure should accommodate this lack. Sometimes, a couple of drilling may be carried out to install the mount firmly. Also, some brands simply take advantage of your car edges as a base for this mount. Raised rails. As the name suggests, this structure has rails that are raised. It is such that you can slip your palms between the rail and rooftop. The rack mounts for such takes advantage of the rails. The mount is usually wrapped around the rails at 4 strategic points. Afterward, the towers are fixed on the mount, then the crossbars, before the accessories. Factory track. This structure has 2 parallel factory-installed tracks. The parallel tracks are close to the door of your car. The roof rack mount takes advantage of the tracks. Fixed mount structures. If you do not observe thoroughly, you'll think this is a naked structure. However, it is one of the best for mounting a rack. This is because it contains 4 hidden slots at definite points. These slots are usually concealed with a plastic covering. To install the mount, you need to remove the covering and fit the mount into the 4 slots. We like to think this feature houses the mount and rack frame better than any other structure. Rain gutter. Fast becoming a very rare feature, the initial intent of the gutter rail was to keep water away from the door. Few brands still produce mounts that align with this rail. The metallic rails are usually placed a few inches above the door. The mounts designed for this purpose use the rails as a base for the rack. Parts of the bike roof rack. There are detachable parts of the roof rack. The bike is closely held by the accessories. However, bike accessories are supported by other parts. Let's identify these parts in totality. 1. Mount. The mount is that part in between the car's roof and other parts of the rack. The kind of mount is determined by the car's roof structure. If the roof is a factory track structure, the mount must align with this peculiarity. 2. Tower. This part is fixed on the mount. It also holds the crossbars. Largely, the height of the rack is dependent on the towers. Some towers can be adjusted in this regard. This allows for flexibility in the height. 3. Crossbar. The crossbar sits on the tower. It is very easy to notice for one reason. It is placed adjacent to the other parts. If the roof structure is a raised rail, gutter rail, or factory track, this will be easier to notice. Aside from the accessories, the crossbar is in close contact with the bike. 4. Accessories. Unlike the hitch and trunk rack, the roof rack serves so many purposes. This is because most heavy and large cargoes are conveyed using a roof rack. For instance, there is the ladder roof rack, kayak roof rack, canoe roof rack, and so on. The accessories are one of the major differences between the various cargo racks. In plain terms, the key difference between the kayak roof rack and the bike roof rack is the accessories. While the kayak accessories are built to carry the kayak, the bike roof rack is wired to carry the bike. Some brands allow you the option of changing the accessories to other cargo-structured ones. On a final note, do not rush into making the bike rack decision. The various factors shared here should help you decide better. In this video, we have explained how to install the bike-structured roof rack, hitch rack, and the trunk rack. You should put this to use when you get your bike rack. If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you'll know once we post a new video. Also, drop a comment below so we can know your thoughts. Finally, don't forget to check the description below for more details and visit our site www.zimcarcarriers.com for more awesome car carrier content like this.